Welcome to the Stoughton Godfather Show. I'm your host, Peter Mantrusco, and my special guest today is Tom Calter, town manager. And he has an impressive background. I'll let him give you a history of what he's done in the past, both public and private.
Hey, Peter.
Nice to see you, Tom.
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Well, Peter, I'll tell you, it's been my great honor to come to Stoughton. I was in somewhat of a semi-retirement when I got the call, and I thought a lot about it. And I've always been very fond of Stoughton. I began my career in Stoughton as a young man working for an environmental service company. And for me, there's something somewhat romantic coming back to Stoughton for what will be my last stop. And so I have had a long career in both the private and the public sector. As you know, I was one of the original employees at Clean Harbors. I was number 7, and now there are 19,000 employees there.
Wow.
So that was a great run. 13 years, 12 years actually, 12 and a half years in the legislature. And really all of that experience has come to bear in Stoughton with the unique challenges we have and frankly the unique opportunities before us. And so I feel somewhat uniquely qualified for this job. I'm having a blast. I'm really enjoying all of the town employees. I have great respect for the work they do. I've met some wonderful people in the community, and they have been very kind to me. And so I'm enjoying the work, I'm enjoying the challenge, I'm enjoying the people. And it's great to be here.
Good. Okay, we'll get to some of the questions here. I'm going to start off with free cash. Comprehensive financial policy. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to balance the budget out of free cash?
Absolutely not.
And that free cash money, what's going to happen to it?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, good organizations work off of objectives. What you've got in front of you are the objectives that I've established for my office and for my organization in this new fiscal year. Last year, as you know, the objectives were very different. And I want to go back a minute and talk about that. Yeah. When there are crises before us, it's very easy to build consensus. For instance, if this building were on fire, we wouldn't have a meeting, we wouldn't discuss ideas, we wouldn't collaborate and communicate and build consensus. We'd just say, get the heck out of the building, right? When I arrived here in December of 22, we had several major crises before us and not a lot of time to fix them. There was structural, it's going to speak to your free cash issue. There were half a dozen different areas of the town that had structural deficits. And what we mean by structural deficits is the departments were budgeted that way. We knew going into the year that there were going to be deficits. And the most pressing one the day I arrived was the Employee and Health Insurance Trust.
Yes.
Was facing insolvency. The water and sewer were at $1 million plus structural deficits, and which required subsidies from taxpayers. And those are enterprise funds. Those should not be getting subsidies from taxpayers. And then we had solid waste. And solid waste was running at a $500,000 to $750,000 structural deficit. And those were all crises. Now, what it resulted in was the town needing to balance their budget using free cash over the past 5, 6, 7 years, perhaps, to balance their budget. Well, that's a real no-no in municipal finance, to use one-time money to balance your operating budget. So the Finance Committee and the Select Board had agreed to a 7-year plan for reducing it by $300,000 a year. It's my goal, as you know, to extinguish the use of free cash in fiscal 25, which is the upcoming year. And we do that by eliminating the structural deficits and eliminating the subsidies in each of the operating budgets, particularly in the enterprise funds. We've now got those crises behind us. Now as we go into fiscal 25, which begins in July of next year, the challenges are even greater because now they're cultural challenges. There's a saying in Stoughton that's often used, well, that's how we've always done it, right? And that's a cultural thing. So by way of example, we're down 12 people in the police department. Our readiness to serve and our service level is dangerously low. Yet we can't recruit people because of the limitations of civil service. And we can't recruit people through civil service
Well, you're answering all my questions like that are yet to come.
because we pay our people well below other towns. So by leaving civil service, we solve half the problem. The other half is, where do we come up with the money to pay people at least at the average wage? And the way we do that, and as you know, I got beat up for it, was to move to regional 911. And regional 911 would save us $750,000 a year in the operating budget, and the state would give us up to $10 million a year in capital investment. But yet, that was new. We had never done it that way. And now that we're moving to 911, and I took my lumps for that, that'll free up the money that we can pay people to stay in Stoughton. I mean, police officers, firemen, employees, to stay in Stoughton and give us the capacity to recruit and get up to the level we need to get up to. Now, to answer your question about free cash. One thing we're not going to do is use free cash to balance the budget. Free cash should be used for one-time expenses, either capital expenses so that we don't have to borrow, or turn it back to the citizens and reduce the tax rate. In Kingston, when I was a town administrator, in 12 months we reduced the tax rate. And we can do that here in Stoughton as well.
Well, if you do that, that's the first time.
Yeah, I know.
Because we never had that, and never.
I know. Well, we've got a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of buildings in trouble, a lot of infrastructure that was deferred for decades at a time. So, there's lots of things to spend the money on, but we're not a rich community.
That's right.
And so we have to always be very, very aware of what the limitations are and what we can do and how fast we can do it. But that's why Regional 911 became so important to me. To make $750,000 by making that move and get $10 million in investment and have state-of-the-art, worldwide, state-of-the-art technology to serve our citizens, there was no downside other than the concerns that were raised by people who were very much opposed to change. So,
Can I elaborate a little bit on
Please
the civil service?
yes.
All right, the last time we talked about this, you said all departments are on board.
The ones that are in civil service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, police and fire are all on board.
Yeah, but also in here it says remove poor performers. So what's that mean? You're going to let them go?
If they're performing poorly, absolutely.
Oh, good. Because usually they just shuffle them around.
In civil service, you can't get rid of anything.
I know, okay.
Here's how civil service has morphed into a program that does more harm than good. Over 100 communities in Massachusetts have now left civil service. So if you're hiring 3 people, you call for the list of those that are eligible, and you get twice that you're calling for. So you get a list of 6. Those 6 people represent the best 6 test takers on the list. It doesn't mean they're going to be good cops or firemen. Yeah. It doesn't mean they're even going to be good people.
I agree.
But you're stuck hiring those people. And then they don't perform.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
And I can tell you, I've got to know the people of Stoughton extremely well over the past 10 months. They're willing to pay people who do the job and do it well every day. They don't want to tolerate, because they don't tolerate it in their own life, poor performers.
Yeah.
And I've met in the past 3 days with the presidents of both unions, police superiors, police patrolmen, and they completely agree. They're the last people that want poor performers on their team. But yet with civil service, we can't get rid of them.
Well, I don't know if I said this on another show or not, but I'm going way back in the sometime in the 60s. I was working in North Andover, and on a sewer project, and the water service broke. So call the water department, they come down to repair it, and there's 2 guys, a middle-aged guy and a young kid. And the young kid was the foreman, and the older guy was the foreman. But they went to civil service, so the older guy that had all the experience, he didn't do well on the test. But as far as the younger guy, let me backtrack. The younger guy did good on the test, but no field experience.
Right.
So now we got this young guy sitting on the top. You can't tell the guy, the ex-foreman what to do because he didn't know what to do. But so the foreman's down there, he's doing the work. Then when he comes back up and he's talking to me, he's bitching, complaining about it. And I could understand that. I said, geez, it doesn't make sense. The guy that's best qualified, but because he failed a test, but he had all the experience in and out, everything in and out. But so I was kind of against that. So okay, so you're going to remove the poor reformers, which is good. All right, so seniority goes out the door too.
The unions who leave civil service, and keep in mind, town meeting has to approve of this. You have to exit civil service the same way you came in.
Oh yeah, okay.
All right, so town meeting has to first approve this. This is not my decision. It's not the select board's decision. It's town meeting decision. Although they will be losing the protections of civil service, they'll be picking up many protections that they well deserve in their collective bargaining agreements. And that language is well established from the communities who have left civil service. So there'll still be requirements for test taking. There'll still be requirements for corrective action. There'll still be requirements for promotion and for nepotism and things like that. Those guardrails will still be there, but they'll be in the collective bargaining agreement instead of being in an old, antiquated, outdated civil service program.
Okay. So the other question I had is this in practice now, which it still is until this gets voted out.
It will come before the annual town meeting in the spring. We will have an article to exit civil service. I'm pleased to say to you that we've got a 1-year contract with police and fire, and we've just completed a 3-year contract that wouldn't start until next July that is based upon the assumption that we will be exiting civil service. So we're way ahead of the bell curve on negotiating this with the unions.
Well, I should think it would fly through town meeting if all the department heads are in favor and all the unions are in favor, so I don't see...
And they are.
Yeah, so it should be no problem.
Peter, I just want to comment on that on a very personal level. I had an organizational disability as a child. It was called an executive function disability. So those standardized exams, I could not pass. So I did poorly on SATs. I did, and thank goodness, MCAS weren't around when I was in school, or I wouldn't have got a degree. But yet it didn't prevent me from graduating the top of my class in high school, and the top of my class in college, and the top of my class in graduate school. And so these standardized tests, all they tell us, we've learned that all they tell us is that those people do well at taking tests. So that should clearly be a component of an evaluation, but it shouldn't be the entire profile of the evaluation.
Okay, that's civil service. We took care of that. Okay, trash recycling, transfer station. Now, I think you're still looking for a piece of property. Which,
we are.
Well, I think I asked you this once before. What's the matter with the town property down on 138?
Town property on 138.
That's pretty big.
Which site are you referring to, Peter?
When you get down there, Huggin and Ewing,
okay,
on the other side of the street. The last couple of years ago, they blacktopped the whole area.
Yeah,
and
okay.
And it's pretty wide, but it goes way back deep. In fact, I think they got some piles of material down back there.
I'm aware of that
Why
site.
kind of go in there?
It structurally would fit there, but there's a lot of factors that have to go into where you put a transfer station. By way of example, I don't know that area well. It can't be near a residential area. It can't be near a restaurant. It can't be near a school or where children play. It's rubbish, it's trash. There can be smells that emanate from the site. So Paul Jaffoon did tell me about that site. I have gone by it now that you mention it. I'm not sure it's the best location in fairness to its residents and its neighbors. The best location would likely be in the industrial zone off of Page Street.
Okay.
We've spoken to several, property owners to see if they'd be interested in exchange of land or in the sale of a piece of land. We'd like to put it down there. Now, for those that don't know what a transfer station is, as we said during the hearings on solid waste, in the not too distant future, I'd say within 3 years, all solid waste is going to be shipped and disposed of out of state. Incinerators and landfills are closing by the day. There's only a handful left. If we don't have a transfer station, we'll have absolutely no control over our escalating costs. So transfer stations are where people come in their vehicles and they drop off their waste, their recyclables, their metals, their scraps. At the very end, they dump their rubbish in bags into a trash container. It gets compacted, so the volume gets decreased significantly, and then gets shipped to an end disposal site. Now, if that end disposal site is out of state, obviously the costs go up. And the only way to offset that cost is if you're compacting it into such a small volume that although we may have a higher unit price, we'll have a smaller volume price. So that's why the transfer station. In my hometown of Kingston, I don't use the transfer station. I have the truck come and pick up the waste because I don't have time to go to the dump on Saturday. I'm usually here in Stoughton on Saturdays. So it's not for everyone, but it does take some of the pricing pressure off the citizens of the community. And quite frankly, the transfer station becomes a social gathering for all the old timers in town. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah, my son lives in West Bridgewater. And
That's right.
They have the same thing there. And you'd be surprised. Good things you can pick up, like lawnmowers. People throw away mowers that are almost brand new.
Yeah.
But they can't get it started. You take it home, it's one little wire hiding behind the carburetor or something.
You're so right about that. In the Kingston one, there's clearly the scrap, and it goes in that bay, another piece of scrap goes in that bay, and newspapers go in that bay. Then you've got a bay that's called giveaway. It's the lawnmower that a non-mechanical guy like me would get rid of, but yet somebody who could fix it would come in and they'd have a brand new lawnmower. They also have composting in Kingston, where Kingston makes loom.
Yeah, we used to do that here too.
Year round. So at the very end, after you drop your rubbish off, if you want to drive your truck up and load it up with loom, you get it for free.
I don't like that.
No?
Stoughton used to do that when we had the dump, and of course they got rid of everything, but they had big containers. You had to dump certain things in each container, and so they had this mountain of
Compost?
compost. So I said, Jesus, I had a trail truck go through, turn around on my property there. Geez, he made big ruts. So I said, I got to go up there and get some compost.
Yeah.
So I go up there, get a load, go back and get another load, and then that was enough for the day. So I said, next week I'll go back, and next week the whole pile's gone. They sold it to a Will. But out of that compost, and that stuff was hot. You could see every time they move it, because it'd be smoking. I got this vegetation that grew there, and it just covers the ground. It's probably just grows like an inch or two, and that's it. But no matter how many times I sprayed it to kill it, it just keeps popping up everywhere. It's taken over 15,000 square feet almost already, and I can't get rid of it.
I think that speaks to the quality of the loom they make.
Yeah, but that's right. I mean, you don't know what's going in there when they mix it up. So you got. So I just
right. I hear your point.
I don't want the.
We won't deliver it to your house.
I don't want that compost. All right. So the other thing, I'm taking these out of order now. But anyways, the other thing was the stabilization fund.
Yep.
Increased the stabilization fund by 20% annually.
Yep.
Does this come out of the top of the budget before it goes to department heads, or is it the 20% coming off by raising the levy? But then I noticed when I took it out of this here, I know it come out of something else over here. But anyways, how do you that 20%? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to take it off the top before?
Off the top. There's an old saying: if you want to save money, start by paying your savings account first every month.
That's right.
And then whatever's left over, you can take your girlfriend to dinner.
Yeah.
I'm a fiscal conservative. I view things that way. Our stabilization count at 16% has got us, the use of our stabilization account, strike that. The fact that we're using free cash in our budget, the fact that our stabilization account is at 16%, puts us at very high risk of having our bond rating decreased. Now, I interviewed with the bond rating company. in April, I believe, or May, and I assured them we have a plan to take free cash out of our operating budget, and we have a plan to build our stabilization account. And so they held off on any changes to our bond rating. Now, why is that important, that our bond rating not be reduced? Aside from the fact that it would be embarrassing for the community, it would kill almost every capital project we've got, including South School. Because if your bond rating drops, your risk increases and your cost of money increases.
Yeah.
And it takes us right out of that sweet spot where we can borrow money at cheap money. So when we start the budget process the end of this month for fiscal 25, you start with a few knowns and a few things that are uncompromising. We've got collective bargaining agreements. We've got a fund. So you start with that. You start with whatever guidelines you gave to your department, where level services or level funding. You then plug in your stabilization number, your savings account, and we'll plug that in first, and then we'll build our budget. And we're doing a lot of work right now on the joint cost program we have with the schools. It's almost $39 million, and it's never been fully examined and presented to the community. We're working closely with the superintendent and his team right now to break that joint cost down into actual dollars that are spent in each location. And we believe that the community has a right to see what every dollar spent in that category called joint costs, where it's being spent. The town meeting's never seen that.
Yeah.
Town meeting has never seen a breakdown of where that joint cost expense is going. And we intend to display it at full town meeting.
Also about the school. Nobody's ever, I thought, from the beginning, on everybody's tax bill, what it's costing each person, what it's costing out of his bill for the schools overrides. And nobody knows, you know what I mean? So now we got 2 overrides coming on, and then possibly a third one.
Just a word about our new superintendent. He would agree with that statement completely.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Joe is not only an outstanding superintendent, he's a citizen of the town of Stoughton.
Yeah.
And he's a former town meeting rep and a former school committee rep. There is no question where his values lie. They lie in providing the best possible education we can for the children of Stoughton. And I share that value with him. Closely aligned right behind that is transparency, accountability, and management control. And we haven't always had that from the schools. We've got it now. Joe's committed to it. We're going to take that $39 million joint cost that I've watched 3 now annual town meetings in a row, and I've lived through one. And there was maybe 10 minutes spent on that budget. And $39 million went without any explanation at all. We're going to present that to town meeting. It's going to be an open book. The citizens have a right to know about every dollar we're spending.
Policy manual. I'm not going to read, maybe I better read it. Policy manual. Build a functional policy manual to be maintained online, which will provide all employees guidance in respect to standard operation procedures. Now, I don't know, does that mean when the job openings come up, we move the person that's qualified or someone that's not qualified and gets paid on the job training, which has happened a million times?
So let me start with the macro question first. For a town that was incorporated in the 1800s, to not have policies and standard operating procedures is a great mystery. A policy says this is what you're expected to do. An operating procedure, a standard operating procedure, says this is how you do it. Right? And when I came here, I asked for a copy of the employee manual and the standard operating procedures, and was somewhat shocked to find out that it doesn't exist. Sure, there have been policies. The Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, have done its job. They created policies. But there was no order, there was no central location, certainly not online, where an employee could quickly say, corrective action plan. You could look it up and find out what the process is. You could look up hiring process, and it didn't exist. And I to this moment, I don't understand why, but it didn't exist. So the top priority, you're going to see it throughout those objectives I set for the year. Up at the very top of that is to create a financial statement for the town. And one of those policies will be we will maintain no less than 20% in our reserve fund. Another one will be that we will not use free cash to balance our budget. Another one may say that all budgets must be presented to town meeting in great detail, not just some. And we're going to have those policies, we're going to have those procedures, and people are going to follow them. Now, to speak to your micro question, that's one thing that our human resource department has done pretty well. When there's when there's an opening, they'll, at least since I've been here, they'll post a job with a detailed job description and a detailed slot for salary. They'll interview internal and external candidates. They'll produce the final 3 through an independent panel. And then those final 3 that are all highly qualified, or they wouldn't be in the final 3, will be presented to the department head to make the final decision. We're not big on nepotism on my watch. When I'm asked, hey, can you take a look at my friend? I'll interview anyone. But there are people in Stoughton who will tell you that they've been presented to me with kind of a winky and a blink. Hey, hire this guy, hire that guy. And if a person is not qualified, we just don't hire them. It's almost like civil service. If you hire the wrong person, you're stuck with them for a long career. Yeah. And we just don't do that here. The reason we've got a dozen open police spots is we can't find capable, competent
Well, I think
people.
nobody wants to be a cop today because you're walking around with a tiger on your back.
It's a real issue, Peter.
Yes.
Different issue, but a real issue. The reason we had the inspectional service position open for 9 months, we interviewed a dozen people, and some of them friends of friends, and they didn't meet the standard. And until we found this gentleman who meets the standard, I wasn't going to fill the position.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to disagree a little bit, but I'm not going to get into the details.
Please do.
But I think there's still people being hired that are not qualified, even from within, because that's just the nature of the game. But how you're going to remedy that, I have no idea.
So when you say hired, you mean promoted?
Yeah.
From within?
Yeah.
That are not qualified?
Yeah.
Well, I have no problem getting involved in the detail. I will not hire or promote anyone that does not have the capability.
Okay. And the other thing that it sticks in my claw here is water meters. Why are we paying outside contractors when men in the water department have always installed the water meters before? It's all the same hookup, which it is. It's the same hookup. Mm-hmm. The only difference is it's got a technology in the meter, but that has nothing to do with the hookup.
Yeah, the reason is money. The reason is money.
Water department can do it. So why ain't we letting them do it when we have these capable people already in the clock, rather than bring outside contractors and it's costing them more money?
No, see, now the last sentence is where you made your mistake.
I don't think so.
It's cheaper. Our water department people are gainfully employed every hour of every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? To take 2 people out of that and put them on water meters full time, we'd have to hire 2 people to replace them. We're not going to hire anybody.
Well,
now let me finish, because you made the statement,
yeah, all right, go ahead.
and I'm going to challenge you to provide data to support your position. So when we look at the fixed cost to replace the water meters compared to taking 2 people out and for a year and a half hiring 2 new people to install them, with all of the retirement benefits, the vacation benefits, the health care benefits, it is cheaper to pay a fixed cost. It's the same thing right now. We just hired a company to do custodial work. 2 people retired. For the cost of all in of those 2 people that retired, we hired a custodial company for 30% less money.
Oh yeah, because you're not paying insurance and all that.
Well, the same
no,
thing
wait a
is-
minute. It has to be
Same thing is
figured into
true.
their hourly pay, whatever they're charging you. The cost has to be.
I don't care what their costs
Yeah.
are. The outside firm. they work off they scale it. They've got a lot of people going to a lot of places. They're a big professional firm. It's less money because of all of the, look at the town benefits. You got 11 sick days. In most cases, 3 weeks vacation days, 15. You get so many personal days. Yeah. You got built up time for flex time.
I don't want to
time.
hear this. It upsets me.
But it is what it is. So to hire an employee is a major investment for the town of Stoughton. So I'm not going to hire 2 additional people with all of the benefits and the retirement obligation, as opposed to a company that can do it in less time because it's all they do, and where there's no overhead costs for doing it. That's why we're going outside.
You being from the private sector, if they were doing something like this, not this particular thing, but the same kind of idea, and they wouldn't hire new guys, they break that crew down for a while to do these other jobs and rush, and then, so you can get back. And we should be doing the same thing.
Peter, we just had an interruption in our water service.
Yeah.
The month before I arrived here, that I wrote to the town and told them all about it. If we didn't have people going to those stations every day.
You're talking about the screwball that overloaded the system?
If we didn't have people he shut off the chlorifier.
Yeah.
Chlorinator. If we didn't have people going to those watersheds and to those sewer facilities every single day, we would not have the same quality of water we've got today. You can't just pull people away and say, instead of going there every morning, we'll go there on Tuesdays. You're setting yourself up for a problem.
I go along with you there, but my feeling is the security system there was inadequate. As far as I know, once you disarm a security system, that should send a signal back to the main base, and maybe even have it go to the police department at the same time, so right away they know that instant that something's gone wrong there. But it did everything but that. So
there was no security system.
I thought there was a security system.
Shut off the alarm.
All right, so even that, once you shut the alarm off, that should have sent a signal someplace.
That's how we picked it up the next morning.
Yeah, but it was too late.
No, it wasn't. The water was not affected.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, if it was a good system, soon as that was shut off, that should have sent a message right to the Department of Water, but nobody's there. But it should maybe hooked up to go right to the police department because there's somebody there 24 hours a day, and they could have made the call to the water department to get down there right away. I mean, supposing the guy that instead of shutting it off, supposing he threw some kind of poison in there, you know what I mean? And you wouldn't know until the next day, but how many people are going to get into that water? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say the security system was inadequate. I don't know if you believe, go along with that, but that's my idea.
Yeah, okay, I hear you on that, Peter. Clearly, it was an employee, it was an inside job.
Yeah.
It wasn't like somebody broke into it and did it. He had a key.
Yeah.
He opened the lock and walked through the front door.
And I'm hearing stories from the street. And a lot of people say, well, it's just street talk. But over the years, all the political problems we had here, everything comes out from the street talk. But 90% of it ends up being fact. You know what I mean? So I just feel, plus I heard this guy, he had troubles over in Avon, wherever the hell he came from. And, no background check to see, if he's a problem or he's some kind of a nut.
Well, I can't speak to what happened here 10 years ago. It is what it is. I don't think, I want to go back, we were talking about meters before we were doing that. We talked earlier about hiring people and the cost of hiring people. When you've got a specific job that has a beginning and an end, right? It's not a full-time job.
Yep.
You don't have your full-time people do it. Just like you don't use free cash in a budget, you don't hire people because you've got a project that's a year old. That's why you hire subcontractors. We hired subcontractors to do our roads. We hire subcontractors to build our bridges and to build our buildings, to build a fire department. We don't have our own people do it. And because there's a beginning and there's an end to that job. And that's why a subcontractor puts in the meters. Because when the job is over, it's over. And we can't take those people, those water department employees, away from their day-to-day responsibilities.
Well, again, we're going to be on different sides of the fence.
That's okay.
The town employees under the direction of the department head, John Batchelor, they put a culvert on Bay Road, good sized culvert, and they put one on Pratt's Court. They didn't contract that out. They did it themselves. The only contract they did, they hired a boom truck to come down there and set the stuff in.
Now that's different.
And that saved big money.
Building the town's infrastructure is an ongoing responsibility. Half of the water department is to build infrastructure. They don't do anything to do with treating water. They build pipelines, they build culverts. That's an ongoing year-round job. The meters is an 18-month project that has a beginning and an end, and then you don't do it again for 25 years.
All right, Jesus Christ. Like I say, I got enough questions here to do 3 shows, but anyway, I'm going to jump
I'll
right-
come back. I enjoy being with
all
you.
right, I'm gonna go to Article 10.
Yeah.
Article 10, yeah, purchase of 30 Porter Street for $440,000, municipal parking lot. Good idea. Building on top of the parking lot and connected to the existing town hall. That's, I think, should
Correct.
be done there.
Yeah.
Rather than just have it for a parking area. But also, I should think we kill that article we passed last year to take the grass area away from the town hall just to park a few cars. Because I think it looks better with the grass, okay? If we're gonna go this route, then we shouldn't have to disturb town hall property.
So I love grass, just so you know. It's my passion. Mark Tisdale, as I think you'd agree, an outstanding engineer.
Yes, he is.
He's the one taking the lead on developing the entire. Let me tell you how it's all tied together. Is to decide and to define the space we've got. That little piece of property is incredibly important to us because we can't connect it without that piece of property. It's like in World War II. It's like Midway. It's very important. The objective is to free up the municipal parking lot next to the police station. Everybody, it's funny. You talk about the coffee shops and the talk on the streets. Everybody's talking about building a new police station. You know, here's a news flash. We can't afford it.
No kidding.
We can't afford. And you know who the first one is to say that? The chief of police.
Oh.
But if we had that parking space that's used as a municipal parking lot next to the police station, then we could put on a very modest addition
Exactly.
that is affordable.
Exactly.
And that's why
agree.
that's why this parking plan around town hall is so critically important, because it'll save us $25 million, which is the delta between what an addition would cost us, $25 million.
I agree.
The delta between what a new police station would cost us versus an addition to give them what they need.
I agree. The only problem, every time you talk to them, they always got a water problem in the basement. That could be solved very easy by pumping chemicals into the ground and gel it up so it seals the water off.
You're right. A lot of solutions to that. And,
So
and
I
if
don't
you don't
even-
have a use for the basement, you can seal it off as well. And if you
Yeah,
put
but they
an-
use it. They put
Yeah.
a lot of stuff down there.
But if we could put an addition on, we could build up whatever we
Yeah,
need.
but why not seal a foundation from the water getting in, and then they
That'd be great.
they get useful.
And I'm very confident that Mark's going to come up with the right plan. He's going to present it to town meeting. I was opposed initially to the purchase of that land, and then really Scott Carrera helped me brief it. We should have bought it 10 years ago.
That's right.
Would have been a lot cheaper. Yeah, but it makes perfect sense. There's not another piece of property like it. Now, the owner of that property is a friend of mine.
Friend of mine too.
So I stayed away from the deal. Mark Tisdale has taken the lead on everything with our attorney, Brian Winter. And I think they've negotiated a very fair, reasonable proposal to allow us to implement Mark's parking plan around the town hall. But I agree with you. If we can preserve grass, Peter, I'd like to preserve the grass.
Yeah, I would too. All right, so, all right, the other Article 18 is to buy the property 760 Washington Street, which is the, oh no, that's Malcolm Parsons. What
There's two of them. There's
Oh, yeah.
Malcolm Parsons and then there's the state bidder.
Okay, so you're going to buy that land, buy it or eminent domain, then do we have a plan for the property?
Yes.
Or are we going to buy it, the property, and let it sit on it like the Randolph Savings Bank that the town has, it doesn't have a plan?
Absolutely not. We will not sit on it.
What, not a plan?
No, we will not sit on it.
Okay.
So let me tell you what my thinking was. This was my initiative. I spoke with the owner of Malcolm Parsons, and I spoke with the owner of the State Theater on August 1st. I told them in very...
Well, let's stick with Malcolm Parsons, and we'll go
Sure,
to the
it's the
field.
same story on both of them, though.
Yeah, I know, but I just... all right,
So on
go
Malcolm
ahead.
Parsons, I spoke with the owner. His name is Steve, on August 1st, and I asked him what his plan was, and he told me, we don't have a plan.
Wait a minute, this is what Wood built.
Malcolm Parsons.
He doesn't have a plan?
No. He said, although we're ready to, it's shovel ready, it's ready to go. He said inflation has caused
Oh, I can see that.
the prices to skyrocket. It's a 1.5 year wait for the switchgear that drives the electrical system. We're just going to sit on it for a number of years until the things straighten out. I said, Steve, I have an obligation to notify you that if that's your plan, we intend to exercise our right of eminent domain, because your sitting on it is creating a barrier to us building the downtown. And he panicked and he said, would you give me a month? I said, for what? He says, to give you a plan and a schedule for building those 24 apartments. He was a real gentleman, and I said, sure, I'll give you a month. I said, but if you don't have a plan that we're convinced is doable, then we're going to bring it before town meeting and let the body decide how important it is to complete that project. So we spoke on September 1st, myself, Mark Tisdale, the town planner, Bill, and that gentleman, Steve. He gave us a very detailed plan that he's ordered the steel, he's ordered the electrical components, he's hired a contractor, and I told him that, okay, it's on the town meeting warrant, we're going to keep it on the warrant. If we see steel going up by town meeting, we'll withdraw it. If the steel is not going up
Yeah, but
by town meeting.
I thought you just said he has no plans of doing anything because the price is escalated.
That's what he said. And then I told him we're going to take the property.
All right, but, you know, I don't blame this guy. It's not his doings, it's the town's doings to screw him up. Right from day one, I went to every one of the meetings, and they threw everything they could at him. And one of the guys is a selectman. I'm not going to name him, but he hears this program. They wanted green space from the ground to the sky. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. So let's just throw figures out. 13 years ago, maybe they say it was 10 million. Today, it's probably going to cost him 50 million. I can see him why he would not want to build
Well,
it.
then he should sell the project.
Well, I agree with you there.
We shouldn't have to, as citizens of the
Yeah,
town of
I know.
Stoughton,
Okay, so
have to deal with that
I'm
holding
glad you
ground.
gave him that avenue to.
And he's
to get
responding.
out.
What he's decided is he would rather build it at perhaps break even and have it for years to come than to have the town take it for its appraised value, which is probably under what he owes on it. And he's choosing the least of two evils. But listen, my job is, like you just said, that maybe somebody mistreated him over the past decade. If I try to figure out the history of Stoughton and how we got to where we are, it's a full-time job,
Yeah.
trying to understand the history. So I kind of take it from where are we now? There's nothing that I hear more from citizens about. There's nothing I hear more about from citizens than the hole in the ground in the center of town.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Yeah.
And so my job is to do your business and to get that thing done. And if Steve weren't going to move it forward, then the town has a right. Whether it pursues that right is up to town meeting, but it has the right to take it. Now, what would we do with it if we had it, right? It's shovel ready. It's all permitted.
Yeah.
You can build tomorrow. If we took it, we would put it out for bid to meet our specifications. And we're not builders. We're not going to build it. We're not going to own it. We're going to flip it.
Okay.
But at least we'll facilitate it.
Okay. I'm running out of time here, so I want to get to the trash, but I want to do this last thing with the State Theater.
Yep.
Now, okay, you don't have the same thing. You have plans,
We have nothing there.
huh?
We have nothing there.
So but you're still pursuing to take it.
Yep. Well, the State Theater, the town has tried to buy it for many, many, many years.
The town? Wait a minute, not the town.
The town has been in discussions for a decade to try
for
and buy it
for the theater.
for the theater.
Yeah, that's not the town. That's a nonprofit.
No, the nonprofit has tried as well. They've got nowhere.
This is the first I heard that the theater. The
Town has had
to buy it.
discussions with the owner of the theater for years to determine whether they would consider buying it, and the owner of the building, an older Greek gentleman, said, nope, not interested in selling it to you or to the theater. So I had a conference call with him on August 1st. I told him that his old, dilapidated, decaying embarrassment of a blighted building is tearing down Stoughton Center. We can't accomplish anything as long as it sits there idle and deteriorating and eroding away, and that if he had no plans, we were considering exercising our right of eminent domain. Now, the problem he's into it for a substantial amount of money, more than its value. And if we take it by eminent domain, we pay on the value. What he owes on it is irrelevant. Now, that is more likely that motion will move forward at town meeting. Until that building is either torn down or rehabbed, and it would cost a lot more to rehab it than it would to tear it down and rebuild it.
Yes, I agree.
It's just, it's I don't know if it's a characteristic of Stoughton, but it's just like the Armory. Everybody's got an idea and an opinion as to what to do with it, but it sits there for decades and deteriorates, and then is worth nothing. The reason the board hired me is I'm a get things done type of guy. And when I leave here, people may like me, they may dislike me, but what they won't be able to say is he didn't do anything.
All right, so you're gonna buy the building. And the town's gonna tear it down. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so definitely it's not gonna be a theater.
We would then permit it for whatever the intended use is, and that's not my call. What the intended use is.
So a theater could still go there.
If there were a developer out
Well,
there.
if you tear the building down, then it ain't gonna go there.
No, picture it this way. You tear the building down, you communicate with your residents to see what they want in that downtown.
I could see a theater going there in a new building.
Now, then we would permit it, called accelerated permitting, for whatever the intended use is, and would do all that quiet stuff, so we could go to market and say, we've got a vacant lot that's already permitted to do X, Y, and Z, and then we would put it out to bid.
Okay.
And God willing, we would recover all the money we spent.
Okay.
And the building would come up out of the ground into the sky.
Okay, I'll go along with that, because that building is an eyesore.
It sure is.
And it costs millions of dollars to just to fix up the brickwork.
You're right, Peter.
All right, the other thing, other question I have on that is, the town, what happens to all the money that the nonprofit has collected for the theater, like $500,000 on back burner from the town through the, one of them boards put up $500,000 so he can go to the bank and borrow money. And whatever other money he collected from the state and stuff like that, what happens to that money?
But we don't control the nonprofit.
Yeah, but that money was, so
the town has no...
the money just evaporates.
The town has no say over a nonprofit. Just like SMAC, we have no say over a nonprofit.
All right, so I'm going to have to get to the trash. We're running out of time here. Jesus.
You're doing well, Peter.
No, I got a million. I didn't think I was going to have enough stuff to ask, but now
I'm happy to come back.
Okay. Now, when the last public meeting we had about the trash, it was going to go up, I think, $120 a year, and times 6,000 some odd residentials and apartments. That was going to wipe out the $870 some odd $1,000 deficit, and then in a year or so would see what exactly it's going to cost going forward, and maybe that amount can drop.
Right.
But now I see on this right here that came in the Stoughton, what do they call it? Well, anyways, so it's more money.
Oh no, the prices.
You got it projected already.
I don't know what you're referring to, Peter.
Well, okay, you got the a trash fee now is
it's what was voted on that night.
$63.50 a quarter.
Okay.
And times 4 quarters, that's $250. And times 6,008 homes, single family, that comes to $1,526,000. Okay, so and now the new trash fee you got here is going to be $90 a quarter. So which comes out to what the hell is it? $90 a quarter. Oh yeah, $360 a year times the 6,800 homes, and this is not counting it's 2 families and all that stuff. That comes up to $2,162,088. So there's a difference between the two of $636,056. So I'm looking at it as it's more money here on this new one than the $120 a year that we discussed.
I can tell you with absolutely certainty, the rates that are in the flyer that just went out are the rates that were voted by the Board of Selectmen the night you were there.
Boy, I don't remember that $90 figure at all.
Yep, it's exactly right.
I'm going to have to check.
It's the exact number. Now, let's be clear. You're kind of going to the revenue at the end. That's how you did that calculation.
Yeah.
What you're not factoring in is we're giving our seniors a 50% discount.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we're going to have an added expense associated with disposing of the solid waste that we're no longer putting in the trash truck.
Yeah.
So you're not factoring in your little analysis there, the cost of the additional solid waste disposal or the impact of the seniors discount.
All right.
The numbers that we sent out to the citizens are to the penny the exact same numbers the board voted on that evening.
I'm not saying that's not a good deal, because it is a good deal. If you go to private side, it's going to cost us a lot more money. But I just thought, as I remember, it was $120 more a year, but now it comes out greater. And okay, and what the hell else? Oh, the trash bags. Oh, okay. I said that we're going to have 30-gallon trash bags instead of leave it the way it is. You put out a 30 or a 40 or a 50-gallon trash bag. That's what I took it that night at the meeting. But now you're specifying certain size bags, which to me it creates a problem. I don't have any barrels that small to put the bags in, because I put all my bags in a barrel and then I take the bags out and put them out, like leave the barrels on the property so the wind doesn't.
Why would you just
because
put the bags,
you drive down the street and you got these barrels all over the place.
Okay.
This garbage trash cop. Why do we need that?
Where does it say trash cop?
Well, I'm saying a trash cop. You're hiring somebody that's going to take care of trash. Anybody that's not complied, he's going to assess them with a fee. And then the fee, if they don't get it cleaned up, it's going to be registered at the Registry of Deeds. And then to get that off, they got to pay the Registry of Deeds, all the court fees. I don't know. To me, I think it's going a little too far.
So we didn't hire a trash cop.
Well, you are.
No, we are, Peter. This is where you and I often go off the rails. We hired a zoning enforcement officer to enforce the zoning laws where there are people breaking laws all over the town, and we get complaints every day about people breaking the zoning laws all over town. For the first 3 months of the trash program, he's going to be out there from October, November, and December, working with the public to make sure they understand the regulations associated with the beautification plan. Then he'll be working in zoning enforcement the rest of his time. As you drive around town...
Yeah, but don't we have a zoning guy already?
No, we don't. We do not have a zoning enforcement officer. That's who we just hired. See, that's the stuff you're picking up in the coffee shop that's just not accurate.
No, we have a zoning guy.
A zoning enforcement officer who drives around enforcing the zoning bylaws. Okay. No, we didn't have one until we just hired this gentleman.
I mean, oh geez, I'm out of time. You always say whatever street you come in, I don't know where they are, but you see this mountains of trash. And
doesn't matter which street I come in on, I see mountains of trash.
Yeah, but wait a minute, I never see these things.
You don't?
No, I drive up the streets I drive, everything's neat, barrels, up there in the trash bags, and by you get a few people that don't bring the barrels in right away, so they end up in the street. But outside of that, I mean...
You're the first person I've met in 10 months that has said, we don't have a problem here.
Well, I don't know. If my family, I said this before, if you see a house, a single-family home, they get enough trash every week or twice a month that's beyond, then that should be investigated by the police. Where's this trash coming from? It's not from you, it's from somebody else. But so for that few, we're punishing everybody else.
We're not punishing anyone.
No, but I mean, we get all these fees and fines.
It doesn't apply to people who follow the law.
Well, okay, and
Hang on a minute. Do you believe that the people who are doing what you just said with those big piles should not be held accountable?
oh, they should. I said that. Them are the ones you should send a cop down.
And that's who that. The police will go down when there's a crime committed. They're not going to investigate somebody's trash on the front lawn, and I wouldn't ask them to. They have more important things like drugs and theft to deal with, and violence to deal with. The only people have treated Stoughton, and they're people from out of town in many cases,
I know
like their own personal dumping ground. I hear from citizens every day who tell me this has got to stop. People who are doing things right, you will never be affected by any of these enforcement bylaws. Never.
Okay.
And law-abiding citizens who care about how our town looks will never be affected. But the people who are doing what you just referred to are going to be affected by it. And they should be.
They should be, yeah. They should be. They should be. Well, okay, should be. Oh, I gotta watch my language. I'm jumping all over the place here. Running out of time. But anyways, we got a minute something. So if you want to say something that you haven't said, and maybe we'll do another meeting.
Well, first of all, Peter, I'd love to come back and talk with you. I always enjoy talking to you. For those,
but I want you on time.
For those of you who are listening, Peter was an hour early. He's blaming me for being an hour late. For those of you listening, Peter and I have met in my office probably half a dozen times.
Yeah.
I find Peter to be passionate. He loves this town. He wants things done right.
Tell the truth. I'm a pain in the neck.
He's not always he's not always correct on his assumptions that he picks up in the coffee shop that morning, but he's a gentleman, and he listens to facts, and facts are friendly. And that's my theme. Facts are friendly. There's not good facts, there's not bad facts, there's just facts. There's not alternative facts. We are facing, this is a great time for Stoughton. We continue to face real challenges, but we're knocking them off one at a time. And it's people in this community like Peter who really give a lot of time, a lot of energy, and they care greatly, that are helping us solve these problems. So to you, Peter, I know we're out of time.
All right, I'm going to bring you back to finish all this stuff.
I'd love that.
And glad you came on.
I'd love that,
really
Peter.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I'd love that.
It's a good show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.